Hey, this is Henry Sanders back with another episode of Real Talk. I want to thank our sponsors at Park Bank. Thank you for everything you're doing. Sincerely, thank you for committing to this 365 state of mind and making sure we let all our influences be heard. If you want more of this content, make sure you go to our podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. Go to our YouTube channel if you're interested more in the video. So today I have someone I met, had to be, I don't know, I'm showing my age here. Maybe it's like 3 years ago, maybe a little longer.
3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this brother is talented, is an author, is a business owner, who's someone who is well known. If you haven't read his books, you should read his books. He has Winter in America. He has another one that's coming out soon. This brother is talented. I met him when he was working at Oshkosh Corp. Is that the Oshkosh Corp? Mm-hmm. Yep. in Wisconsin? The brother's now in Atlanta doing big things. He's going to be part of our Men's Leadership Summit also coming up. And this brother is just, I'm excited to have him because he's a wealth of knowledge. Any of you who are interested in D&I work, any of you interested in how to be an author of business, this is the show for you. We have an expert, a national expert coming in who can give you some tips. So my man, Shelton Goode, brother, how are you doing?
Hey, Henry, how you doing, man? It's been a while, but I've been I'm glad to see how you transitioned from your Obama appointed post and got Madison 365. I remember when he's just getting this thing off the ground. So I'm glad I'm following you on all the social media. So thanks for letting me be a part of the today's show and the upcoming panel. Everybody, make sure you check out the upcoming panel. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah. So again, thank you for that. And we do have a Men's Leadership Summit coming up. What he's talking about, and we decided to do that because there's so many conversations going on in America right now, but you almost never hear the conversation around men of color.
Yeah.
And how men of color how the challenges that men of color have, or the challenge they have to thrive, or what they're doing to thrive, how they're doing to succeed. And so, hope you guys all please check out our Men's Leadership Summit coming up next April 14th and 15th. But bro, let's get to you.
Okay.
So this, cause I'm interested. I don't know your whole story either, right? So I'm curious to know your story. So this is what I know about you. I know one, that you're a go-getter. I remember that you were going to Oshkosh, flying back and forth to Atlanta.
Right.
Oshkosh Corp brought you in because they really want to do some D&I work. You were the first person they brought in to do that D&I. So you basically built it from scratch.
Right.
Right. I know that then you left and went to Atlanta, and I knew you were an author when you were at Oshkosh. You were an author, and you had a book called Beyond Inclusion. Is that what the name of it was?
Well, at that point, I had just published Crisis as a Platform for Change. And at that point, we were all lamenting and, about the deaths of Trayvon and Michael Brown and others. And I had a lot of pent up thoughts and needed a way to get those on paper and to help people understand, to become a little bit more empathetic and see the world through the eyes of African-American males, and understand that we weren't just making things up. Mm-hmm. And so obviously we know June 2020 with the death of George, people saw that video and no one could deny. Finally, people could say, I'm seeing it with my own two eyes. And as a result of that, we have some people now that are a little bit more enlightened. But even before that, I was trying to enlighten people, considering that we had between 2014 and 2015, in a 12-month period, we had over 100 Black men that were killed at the hands of law enforcement, either during an arrest or while incarceration. And while
say that again. I want you to say those numbers again for our people.
112 unarmed Black men that were either that were killed either as a result of an arrest, a stop, or a or being temporarily incarcerated awaiting trial. And everybody knew about the big names. But there were a lot of incidents. And so that became something personally important to me. And I wrote about it. And that's the book you're referencing.
Yeah.
And by the way, I never would have thought when I wrote Christ as a Platform for Change, that we would have had the murders of Breonna and George and Ahmaud, and here in Atlanta, Mr. Blake, and on and on and on. I would have never imagined that would have happened. So,
yeah, you're almost prophetic in a lot of ways. So let's take us back to your beginning of your journey, because I'm curious about how you became this wonderful, brilliant man that you are now.
No.
Like, how did that happen? Like, so where are you from originally?
Philly, born and raised in Philadelphia.
Philly. Okay.
Yes, skinny kid from North Philly. Product of a 2-parent household. One parent believed religion was the only path to a forward and advancement. The other parent believed it was education. Between the two of them, I went to a parochial school, went to a parochial charter school, went to a parochial, college prep, school taught by Jesuits. So it was that blending of, hey, the Lord, has got a plan for us, but you got to have some education so you can be smart enough to follow his plan. And then those times when I wanted to be a knucklehead and go my own way, nah, my folks wasn't having it. And so the person that's here today, I survived the streets of Philly in the 70s, and thanks to some parents, and then went into the Air Force, served the country for over 20 years. Proud to have done that. Even more proud of the fact that my sons have followed me. I've got two sons, one in the Navy, one in the Air Force. And by the way, they made their own decision. They informed me after the fact. So I'm really proud. I'm really proud of that. And so then that gave me a strong foundation on which to build on after leaving military service.
It's interesting talking about your parents. So my parents were the same way. So my mom is straight Baptist. Hallelujah. Love Jesus, love God in the church. My dad's an attorney. He's agnostic. He's from the perspective of, hey, if there's a God, why black people getting lynched and killed? Yeah. He's from down south of Mississippi, right? And so he has a different perspective. So I can relate to what you're saying, and I can also relate to what you said, what you didn't say, but I heard some whoopings in there. That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
They would call that. They would have a criminal statute. Your father being an attorney would know. Yeah, some of that punishment may have bordered on assault. But my knucklehead, I needed it. In Philly, thinking I knew everything. Not given appreciation for what God was doing for me in my life, and not respecting my parents for making the sacrifices to pay for a very expensive education. And considering the fact I had 2 sisters and a brother, as well. But that foundation allowed me to have a successful career in the Air Force. The Air Force didn't have to shape me or mold me or brainwash me. They just had to polish me off a little bit and say, hey, this is how you're going to do things this way. But the combination of those two gave me the foundation so that when I decided to go into leave military service, and then come into corporate America, I was ready. I was ready.
What did the Air Force and military do to help you get ready for corporate work? That's a jump, right? I mean, like come from all that structure and Air Force, and they know where you're going to be and all that stuff. Yeah. Lots of military. I was never been in the military, but I know it's structured. Yeah. And then you take from the military, and then you go to corporate America. Yeah. What did the Air Force help you do to make that transition?
I give you 4 things. Number 1, it threw you in instantly, and you had to do things, and you had to accomplish results with with a diverse group of people. And I'm talking about diverse in I had never heard of Rome, Georgia, but I can remember being and one of my friends that I developed a friendship with was from Rome, Georgia. And you just had to deal with different people. I can remember a skinny white kid that was from Wheeling, West Virginia. I couldn't even point out West Virginia on a map. You see what I'm saying? But you have to learn to not only, I'm not talking about tolerate. I'm not talking about integrate. I'm talking about function. And in order to achieve the results that you were expected to receive. That's number one. Number two, discipline and self-control. You couldn't just do whatever you wanted to do whenever you wanted to do it because you want to do it. You had to find a way to be you. I think about it like being a part of the Temptations, right? You just, Eddie Kendricks, David, everybody got to play their role, or maybe on the sports team. You just can't get out there and come down the court and shoot every time. You got to function within a concept, and there was plenty of room. The brother found enough room to be me and be Air Force. They wasn't, I think people have a misperception about the Air Force. There's plenty of room to be you. The other thing, in addition to those two skills, leadership. And by the way, everybody was expected to be a leader regardless of your rank. At some point and at some time, even if someone else outranked you, if you had a particular subject matter expertise, everybody deferred to you to step up and like, wait a minute, I went to Saudi Arabia and picked up the language a little bit and had studied the culture much more so than any of my fellow people that work with me at the embassy, military people. Not talking about State Department, but before I went, I made sure I did everything I could. So when I went over there, so even though there were people that outranked me when I was in Saudi, they deferred to me because I understood the culture. So people expect you to lead if you have the subject matter expertise. You just have to have the confidence. You have to have the comfort, the confidence, and the competence to step up when it's your turn to step up. And last but not least, communication. You have to. 1 minute you're talking to a 4-star general, or the head of the embassy, an ambassador. The next minute you're talking to an airman, and you have to be able to communicate not based on how you want to communicate, but how they wanted you to communicate to them so they can understand your message. Those skills transferred instantly. The day I took off the uniform, the day I put on the suit, I had those 4 skills, and I had them honed to a fine point, and so much so that it stood out right away.
That's amazing to me that you could distill all that and break it down to those 4 things. And what I actually think, and it makes so much sense from a D&I lens too, what you just said. But what's really stuck out to me is what you said is about having diversity and not just inclusion, but a functioning organization, like where we're not just bringing people of color, or people different backgrounds from Rome, Georgia, but all this stuff. But you have to be functioning. Like, I want to bring people together to actually function and flourish. That's like a level that most people in D&I don't ever talk about. We talk about diversity and inclusion. We're talking about representation. We talk about tolerate, all that stuff. You're actually talking about a different level of functioning to make sure that the military flourishes. And you talked about sports too, and I love it because I always use sports when I'm talking to people when it comes to D&I. I think the military is the same thing, right? It's like the sports are in, especially football and basketball, they do this well. They want to get W's.
Right.
Absolutely. They want to win.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
Absolutely.
And to do that, they know they have to have diversity. And they don't care if you're white, black, Asian, Native American, whatever it is.
Right.
If you can help me get this W.
Right.
Come in.
Right.
We have a game plan. We have a structure, but we need you to help us function to flourish so we can get these W's. End of line. And I hear you saying the same thing about the military. And so I think that's powerful.
But I talk to CEOs, I talk to chairmen of boards every day, and I say, so forget all those fancy words. Forget diversity. Maybe you don't. If you ask Henry, if you ask 10 people to give you a definition of diversity, you're going to get 50 different answers.
Yeah.
The same way with equity, the same way with inclusion. I get rid of those words, and I just say, okay. I'm a huge football fan. I said, let's just take a team, any team. You've got different people on the team with different skills, and you want them to use those skills, and you label them with positions, lineman, quarterback. The lineman ain't trying to be the quarterback. The quarterback ain't trying to, everybody's got to play your position. Why? You got to respect the person to your left and to your right. You got to count on them to do their job, which helps you do if they do their job, it helps you do your job better. And what I try to get them to do, if you got somebody on the bench with a uniform on, with a number and a name, but they don't feel like they're part of the team, that's your job to say, whoa, what's up? Maybe you haven't got many minutes, but you still are part of this team. Be ready to step up when the next man goes down. Mm-hmm. Be ready. When I call your number and put you in the game, you practice, you show up, you know the plays. Pete, that's respect. That's going to people. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with you taking time to say, I know you're a little frustrated, not getting the playing time you want, whatever. And that's what people have gotten so inundated with, they've gotten totally confused. I try to make things simple for folks. And those clients that we have at Icarus Consulting, that's what we do. We try to help them understand you want W's. So let's talk about how you get W's. Mm-hmm. And now, if you don't want to get W's, then you don't need me. Right. You don't need me to tell you how to lose. Hey, so just keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to win, and we have to describe for them what winning looks like.
Yes. Yeah. So what does winning look like?
You know what? There is no one definition of winning for each team. If you went 2-12 one year, wouldn't 7-7 look pretty good the next year? Mm-hmm. I'm just saying for the next year. If you had 2-12 and you went to, and then for the next year, wouldn't 10-2 look pretty good? Or 12-2. You see what I'm saying? Winning has to be defined by each organization at each snapshot in time. Come on, man, we're coming back from COVID. Winning looks different for a company that had to lay off 50% of its workforce and was one payroll away from bankruptcy. Winning in April of 21 looks different than it did in November of 2020.
It certainly does. So when you're talking to your clients and you've made this shift to Air Force to corporate America, and now D&I, like it's the hot thing, right? It's the hot thing everyone's talking about. Everyone's off the shelf of doing D&I experts, etc. Right. You've been in this game for a while. So what do you explain to people who are in this D&I space? I love how you explain what you learned, but how did you implement that into the corporate America and to make sure that your clients got those W's, right? Because just like I know, a lot of D&I stuff evidence shows that it doesn't really move the needle unless you're doing some key things. Right. And you've named 4 of them. So what do you do and explain to your clients to make this like a W for them?
So the first thing I do is have that conversation for where we are right now today. What would winning look like? What is it that you want to accomplish the next 12 months? Maybe the next 24 months, maybe the next 3 years. And then I don't go further than that. It's like, okay, let's look at what sustainable success looks like. And then they say, so can I give you a real world example? One of my clients was Papa John's. And Papa John's had found themselves, losing market share for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but I talked to the CEO and I says, help me understand what success looks like. He says, based on where we are right now, considering the firestorm of backlash we're getting based on, some things that the previous CEO and board members said and did, here's what it looks like. I need you, number one, I'm losing market share, and a lot of that market share is blacks who are consuming our pizza. He says, I need you to help me keep the customers, the black customers in particular, people of color, help me keep the ones that I got. I don't want to lose anymore. Help me. Number 2, help me be able to get some of the ones that I lost back. I'm willing to do, I'm willing to consider almost anything. Help me get those customers back. Number 3, help me get the customers. We have a heck of a pizza. Help me get the new customers. Can you help me do that? I says, I definitely can help you do that. And Icarus, in partnership with Nimbus, a headed up by Dawn and Stacy Wade out of Louisville, a multicultural marketing firm, were instrumental in helping them turn things around. We were instrumental in getting Shaquille O'Neal to the table, and now he's a member of the board. Not only that, he's an owner of multiple franchises. One of them is right here in Atlanta. And, just his commercials alone in the beginning, people are like, whoa, Shaq is rolling with them. And people that know Shaq don't roll with everybody. You have to know Shaq as the businessman. He is very discriminating about the products and the businesses he works with. And that was instrumental. But and then the company did a lot of training. It changed some leaders out, got some different leadership in. And so that's a turnaround. That's what it looked like for them. You understand what I'm saying? And sure, they want to do some things, they want to increase the diversity of their board and get more women and people of color in leadership and think they want to do some of those other things too. But at the end, none of that is not going to move the big needle, which is selling pizzas. When the president tells me right there in Atlanta, I've had drivers who feel unsafe delivering pizzas, particularly in Black neighborhoods. He says, I can't have that. And these are Black drivers feeling safe going into Black neighborhoods simply because they got the big pizza, the Papa John's sign. So we work with companies just like that. Let's crystallize what winning looks like for you today. Now the company is now back in the green or back in the black. I'm sure that success in the next W looks different. It probably means taking over the number one spot from Pizza Hut. I'm just saying it's not a one size fits all. If that makes any sense, Henry.
It does. I love what you said too. Just how you dropped it, like Papa John's, Shaquille O'Neal, you dropped it humbly, these are big names that you're working with. So that's impressive that you're doing that, brother. I want to sometimes we don't stop and appreciate and be grateful for what our Black folks are doing, our leaders of color are doing. So I want you to know that alone is impressive, that you work with Papa John's. You can even have any association with Shaquille O'Neal. That is to be appreciated, brother. That's Black excellence in my perspective. Yeah.
And Black excellence that's recognized by the people who recognize excellence, period. When Forbes became aware of what happened with Papa John's, they interviewed me to be, whether or not you're going to be a D&I trailblazer. And I gave them the specifics. They asked tough questions. How do you know it was a direct result of your input and, whatever, and then blah, blah, blah. And they said, yeah. If you can say D&I is making cultural and business sustainable change, oh yeah, that's how you become one of the top 10 D&I firms in that short period of time that we've been in existence. So I got a great team. They do hard work, but we also earn the trust of people who have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. They have another responsibility to both their employees and customers. I tell you what, my new thing is now, it's trying to get those same companies to spend more with small businesses that are owned by women, people of color, LGBTQ, plus vets, and to get them to focus internally on some of their practices that may be getting in their own way. Mm-hmm. A lot of companies that say, oh, we don't want to do, we want everybody to come back to work. I'm saying, really? Why don't you, let's talk about that. So again, Black excellence, your sponsors recognize it, glad that they've given you a platform so we can have this kind of straight talk, real talk, unfiltered conversation. So excellence is always going to be recognized.
So, okay, you've said so much. I hope people appreciate what you're saying. Look, he's saying he went to the Air Force. He learned these skills, leadership, discipline, accountability, how to function as a real inclusive organization. He took that to the private sector. He worked with Papa John's. Papa John's had some issues, and then he addressed what they was interested in, what they were really retention. We want to retain what we have for people of color. Then we want to reach out and expand our base, expand our universe. And you helped all that stuff, and you actually connected a celebrity that connected to Black folks and helping bring that in. So it's one thing. This is one of my pet peeves with ad agencies and stuff. When they try to do media buys, they try to reach people of color, and they go to organizations that don't have credibility with people of color. Just because you reach people of color, mean you have credibility with people of color. So I love what you did was you were astute enough to know Shaq has, not only does he can reach people, but he has credibility. His brand actually has credibility in our communities. Totally different to just be able to reach them, but actually to have someone actually think they can accept and they believe they can engage.
Yeah,
so I love
and a big shout out to Nimbus, Stacey Wade, CEO, his wife, Chief Transformation Officer, Dr. Dawn Wade, who was a student of mine, and when she's getting her PhD, I came and taught a class, and she reached out to me to say, hey, this D&I thing is your thing, but in terms of credibility in the Black community, particularly in Louisville, Kentucky, Atlanta, and even nationally, and I'm constantly looking to leverage them for future clients. So yeah.
I love it. So you've had such an interesting background. Where do you think this industry is going, right? So some would say this D&I stuff is like a flash in the pan, like it's just going to go away. It's going 3 years from now, George Floyd gets killed, Breonna gets killed. So right now people are paying attention. Once COVID's over, world gets back to what it is. People are not going to stop caring about this D&I stuff. This D&I work, it really won't. It's not a long journey, a longevity plan if you're building a model around that. What do you say to that?
I say it would be, I know my wife is going to be mad if I said that, I wish that we advanced I wish that companies and communities in the country advanced to the point we didn't need an Icarus consulting, but we are not there. We are not there. There's so much work to be done that I believe companies and communities in the country will always need the services of someone like an Icarus consulting. And Henry, I say that because I got into this work back in the day when lawsuits were being dropped every other week, and companies were having to respond to lawsuits of unfair treatment, discrimination, primarily racial, and then it evolved. Then it went to gender, and then it went to age, and then it went to LGBTQ plus. Unfortunately, companies will always need coaching and consulting on how, as the diversity of your company increases, how do you make that a work and a place where everybody, every day, feels respected, not regardless of their gender or orientation or race, but because of it. Because your race brings a unique perspective to our workforce that we need. You should, and then value for your competencies and skill sets. You hire me for a reason. Gosh, but you got to respect game. You know what I'm saying? It's like, gosh, you got to respect the game, and then just treat me with dignity. Gosh, as a human being, God created me. You didn't create me. So therefore, who are you to not treat me with dignity? It's not that complicated. But companies do not put forth the intentional efforts they need, or sometimes they simply don't know how to do it. And so they will always, unfortunately, need the services of an Icarus Consulting and a Dr. Shelton Goode. And my wife, who loves shoes and purses, says, honey, you go get that money. She says, hey, don't get behind in invoices, because I've already got my eyes on another pair of shoes and a matching purse. So I met my wife in a diversity certification program. It was a 8-week program. She went through the program as a diversity executive. She later came back and became the president and CEO of the American Institute for Managing Diversity, who had a program called the Diversity Leadership Academy. 8 weeks, you became certified as a diversity professional and practitioner. That's where I met her. So she knows the work I do, and she's since left corporate and started her own business. But she say, my money is for me. Your money is to take care of us. So, you get out there and get that. You got to go out there and get that money.
She said, "Get that." She said, "You got to get that bag, hubby.
Yeah,
you got that." That's.
It's the truth, man. I'm not making that
up. I believe you. I believe you. It's interesting to me that you have such a perspective on what's going on in the industry, but what you also have done is you're an author, right? So you're writing books. I know you have another book that's coming up. Is that part of a strategy? Is that intentional of writing books? So a lot of people write books as a marketing tool. I want to write a book. I'm going to use this book to go around and speak about the book. I'm going to sign some books. I recognize I might not make a lot of money off the book, but the book is a tool for me to get in front of people, get my content in front of them. Hope I get speaking engagements. And that's what I use when I go around. Hey, if you want my book, recognize the book's not going to make me wealthy and within the book within itself, but it's a marketing tool to help me build my brand, expect my brand and my content. Is that what you were thinking?
And that is a very effective model. And it's one that it has worked for me. So let me be very transparent. But you also have to remember, I'm what's called a pracademic. I'm a practitioner, but I also teach. So I've taught for Georgia Military College. I've taught for I taught for Troy University. I've taught classes for Georgia State. I've taught. I'm on the adjunct faculty for Duke University. So I'm also an academic. Remember, in academics, you got to publish.
Okay.
And so in order to have credibility, if you're going to consider yourself a thought leader, people are going to say, okay, when's the last time you shared any of your thoughts? And let's be clear, a thought leader has to put their thoughts out, whether they're accepted, not accepted, popular, not popular. You have to be prepared to put your thoughts out there and then be able to support them, defend them, or clarify them or amplify them. So you can't call yourself a thought leader and not publish. You can't call yourself an academic and not publish. I mean, so and then last but not least, the brother got a lot of things in his head. That for me is cathartically, it helps me get them out of my head onto paper. I told you I was very profoundly impacted by the deaths of Tamir Rice and Trayvon and others. And it's like, people just think, that was their fault. They had to have a reason. They didn't comply with the police. I did my research, which included interviewing over 150 senior law enforcement officials and say, help me understand your perspective. That was very controversial to put that in a book that's talking about the killing of Black men, to even offer what the other perspective is. But that's part of the problem. There's always multiple sides to any story. Winter in America on November 9th, 2016, I'm just going to be very transparent. I was disappointed in this country in electing an unqualified person for president. And I mean that. Everything that, as a Black man, I've been told, you want us to give you affirmative action. You want special things because you're Black. You want unearned benefits. You got to be qualified. Opportunities should go to the most qualified. Okay, fine. Only thing I've ever asked for this country was stick by your rules. If it's going to be one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all, then you should be able to point to me and say, this is the case. If you say we're going to hire somebody to be the chief administrator and the commander in chief over the military, you should select the most qualified. You had 16 candidates to put up to represent your party. You put up the least qualified, and then America doubled down on that by then electing that person in a national election. To me, that doesn't make any sense. That's 60 million people was on an interview panel, and so I was profoundly disappointed. The only way I could explain it and articulate it in a way that I hope people would understand and say, here is what happened, here's what the turnout was, and here's what I predict will be the result of making what I believe to be in 2016 a bad decision. And I think that the evidence would strongly back me up now that was a bad decision that we made.
Don't you think though that President Trump, I'm just going to say his name, that's what you're talking about, is, what don't you think his election was also a response to having a black president and having a President Obama in there, and that those who didn't like President Obama being there, that was the United States way of trying to balancing out what somebody perceived as not being a good thing on their own. And President Trump really, and people don't like when I say this, but it's true. He's like, traditionally, when we were growing up, you and I, when people talk about the American dream, Shelton, they talked about you have to be rich. You don't want to be politically correct. You want to do what's right. You want to fight the fight. Like, you want to be basically John Wayne, right? Like, you want to be John Wayne. He fits all these, checks those boxes for a lot of America. He's what they see as the American dream. And they saw President Barack Obama maybe not as that American dream. So I think it was just a response to President Obama. I mean, I think he just was John Wayne coming and saying, I'm going to make our country great again. I'm going to take it back from these black folk.
And that's why I wrote Winter in America. I had my own perceptions and feelings and beliefs, but Winter in America is research based. So the first two chapters talks about what actually happened. What was voter turnout? And not giving too much away, but I can tell you what Shelton Goode thinks, but I can tell you today what actually happened. And had you had the same turnout in 12 that you had in 16, I'm not talking about 08. I'm talking about 12. No, let me scratch that. If you had the same turnout that you had in 2004, even though Bush won, you would have had a different result in 2016. Voter turnout in traditionally taken for granted precincts.
Okay.
I don't want to go there, but that's why
we're about to have a conversation, though. We're about to have a conversation.
That's why I wrote Winter in America. Now,
I have to read this book. I have to read this.
So let's talk about the facts first, and then we can talk about the implications. But I want to be sure that people understand how national political elections are run and won.
Yeah.
Won.
As someone who's a recovering politician, want to be a politician, I get that. And
I know you do. I know you do.
So I would actually, and I agree with you. I put some of that blame in the Democratic Party, though.
I'm not placing blame.
But I will. I will say that I think the Democratic Party sometimes takes for granted that their base, and they recognize it now. You need black folk to turn out in numbers for you to win. Hands down. That's it. There's like this bottom line. You can make it more complex, nuance it. You say whatever. You need data. It goes back what you said, evidence-based. The data, the numbers show when black people turn out.
Yes.
Democrats win, and the Republicans know that now.
Yes,
they know if we get 12 Republicans, if we get 12%, 13%, and the black folks to vote, we win, right? So I kind of think at that time. Oh yeah.
And what I'm saying is, Henry, let's call it. Let's be real candid here. Not a lot of people understand. I have gone out to a college, universities. When I did Winter in America, I was called out by several public administration and public political scientist colleagues that says, would you come and talk to my class? I was in a class where I said some statements that were factual. A doctoral student stood up to me and challenged them. And then I says, okay, I respect that you disagree, but please go do your own research. And then I did something to this day that I'm not sure I'm really proud of, but it made my point. I says, oh, by the way, did you vote in the 2016 election? He said, no. And so you see my point. People don't understand some of the things we understand. So, but again, I don't want to. I needed to get out of my soul the pain that I felt with that much more so than back-to-back elections of W. This one to me was speaking something different to the soul of America. It was clear to me. Something changed between 08 and 16. And now we clearly know in 20 that direction, that tilt that we saw in 16. We saw what happened. Again, more people voted in any other election. And so let's just end that there. So, and we saw what happened when the result went a different way. These are facts. This is not Shelton Goode. I'm just telling people.
Look, I'll back you up. This is factual. And again, if Democrats, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, whatever, that's not my thing.
Let me say one more quick thing. I'm here in Atlanta. Okay. And I did some get out the vote and did some things this last election. So look at Georgia.
Yeah.
You see the results of turnout. First time, person that lost a congressional race wins a Senate race. He just so happens to be young, just so happens to be white, just so happens to be Jewish. You have a first time candidate who happens to be black, happens to be male, happens to be a pastor of the church. Those two guys shouldn't have won, but turnout. And then what do you get as the immediate response to that? The immediate response. We're not even going to talk about what the governor did to disenfranchise voters to win the gubernatorial race. But what do you see as the direct response? So, folks, what I'm trying to do is, look, don't challenge my positions. Go out, do your own research, enlighten yourself, and be prepared for the 22 elections and the 24. That's all I'm saying. So I'm gonna stop right there. These things have profound impacts on my business. Elections, social justice, the not treating people with dignity and respect, and I'm talking for whatever reason. We're seeing, and you saw the Stop Asian. Come on, man. There had already been almost 4,000 incidents prior to the one in Atlanta. You see, we needed to stop that after the first 6 or 7. 4,000 later, you have the incidents. You see what I'm saying? People have got to understand it's going to take direct action to arrest the direction we're going in, which is not the right direction. It's not healthy. It is simply not healthy. In fact, it's dangerous.
That's a whole different conversation where the country's going, and hopefully that it will get better, right? So hopefully that's my hope and my faith is helping try to be optimistic and hopeful that things will change. Agreed. But I do see what you're saying. I do think we're in a challenging time, and we can go either way right now. And this political battle you're talking about is not going to change in the next 4 to 8 to 12 years. So for me, out of everything we just said, like you said, make it simple. I'll make it simple. You need to win. You need black folk to turn out to win. Simple. Absolutely. Which also means black folks. I'll speak to my people right now, black folks. Don't let anyone take you for granted, though. So don't let people come around, just come to the churches, come around when it's election time. Make the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, whatever it is, make sure that they give you something for your votes. Make sure that and if they say they're going to do it, they stick by it. Don't let them take us for granted. And both sides do that. And so don't let them take it for granted. Make them, if they need us, great. That's a democratic society we live in. That is great. But make sure that they earn your vote. Don't just give it up.
Great.
Just don't give it up.
Couldn't agree with you more. Could not agree with you more.
Okay, so before we go, tell me about your new book. You have a new book coming out. What's that? What's that about? I'm gonna get there, but I gotta get the winner in America now. Like you got me sold on that. What's the new book? So
Crisis in Winter in America was kind of backward looking. Think what happened and me trying to enlighten myself as well as others about what had happened in the past. I'm real excited about my next book. I'm entitled Beyond Inclusion, Reimagining the Future of Work, Workers in the Workplace. I'm really excited about this because it's future looking and it allows me to go around and tell corporate CEOs and senior leaders and chairmen of boards, hey, if you've ever wanted to do something, this is the time to dust off all those plays. We can't do this because of this. We can't do this because of this. This is the time to not only go back and pull those things out, but to really reimagine how we're going to get work done, how you're going to make money, how you're going to become sustainable looking into the future. I'm I grew up being a Trekkie, right? And I remember, Captain Kirk flipping out his communicator. I mean, that was the 60s. And now, even now, flip phones are not a thing of the future. They're actually ancient history, right? So imagining the future, man, I'm excited about. So I talk about in the book how you can come out on the other side of these multiple pandemics, COVID, the social justice, social injustice, and then the political divide, how you can come out as a corporation, as an organization, and thrive and be successful by being bold. I have a client that you told me before COVID, we can't send customer service reps home. We have to keep them in this customer care center.
Yeah.
And now they've decided to keep 100% of their customer service reps at home, working from home for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me what you can't. So that was driven by a crisis. What I'm asking people now to use those crises as a platform for the future and reimagine. This is the time to go to your shareholders and say, look, we're going to withhold a couple dividend payments, but here's what we're going to do. And we're going to make it up to you later. Because this is the time for, employees to go to their manager and say, hey, in order for me to do my best work, in addition to being treated with dignity and respect, I think I could be more effective if maybe I came in 2 days a week, maybe work from home and travel a little less. Mm-hmm. So that's what the book talks about. It's got actual case studies, actual interviews where I ask both CEOs, HR leaders. If you could I asked one HR leader, if you could just be king for a day, be chairman of the board, CEO, and you can snap your fingers and make one change, what would it be? And I capture that interview in the book. So thank you for allowing me the time to think about it. Let me again, thank you for this platform, which allows authentic and unfiltered voices. And thank you for your sponsors for trusting, for investing and supporting you. I think platforms like this, more so than network television, is the way of the future for communicating. Yeah. I really do believe that. So I'm proud of you, brother. Keep it up.
Thank you. And, it's we're a niche. We've grown fast. We're number one. We reach about 1.5 million people a month. So we're growing. So thank you for that. Where can people get your books though, brother? Is this Amazon or where do they get them?
So any retail bookseller, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I may be able to give you a hookup.
I need an autograph. So I need an autograph.
It's coming.
I need to Win in America. You got me so to Win in America because we're speaking the same language on that. So I want to see that.
And let's come back and talk about that. Let's come back and you and me, let's consider it a political science 101, and let's walk people through your days of being in politics and I've got some questions for you. So my PhD is in political science with an emphasis on public administration. So we can have a whole conversation about what needs to happen differently. Not only just individual voter behavior, but you ask me, a two-party system for the country to really, really advance to being what it needs to be. I think and I know what you're thinking, but I still believe the solution is something other than a two-party system.
That might be the case. That might be totally the case. I do think that the two-party system, it depends what angle you're coming from. But just from a person of color perspective, they do take people of color for granted. Yep. And I get in trouble for saying this. I think it's just for people of color, I think either we need to play in both parties, influence both parties, or we all need to be independent and make all parties come to us so we can get some for our votes. I don't think one party should have all our votes. I don't think that's strategic. I don't think that helps us. I think they either have to earn it. We're independent. We're playing on both sides, influence them the same, or like you said, maybe different parties. But how it's working right now, it just doesn't work for the best interests of the people.
Agree.
That's a whole different conversation.
Now, but you being a political, recovering political person, we've been trying to get the Republican Party to understand and make the tent bigger. You got to have issues And of course, it's a chicken versus the egg. Which one is going to come first? Are they going to have some planks that we can buy into, or are they going to say, no, you come into the party and enough in a critical mass, and maybe you can influence the planks? Right now, I will tell you.
Great question. Great question.
So please let's put that on the radar for some future show.
Great question. Like, ooh, I was like, see, I want to dig into that now. Like, a great question. And if the Republican Party was smart, they would open up their platform for people of color. I mean, look, people of color, we want to be entrepreneurial. We're definitely, I mean, at the core, we're capitalists. Like, listen, any rapper, Jay-Z, Ross, Drake, they all tell them to build a capital. They all want to build wealthy, right? We want good education. We want safe streets, right? Like, at the core, or at least what the Republican Party used to claim to be, because there's something else now, what they used to claim to be, that should be easy for them to connect to people of color. We're faith-based. I don't get them. I don't get them at all. I don't like strategically what they're doing. Demographics are shifting. I just don't get them at all. Like, I see no strategy around it at all.
Well, they're unrecognizable from the Reagan, the party of Reagan. Totally unrecognizable. But again, topic for another discussion. And if you want to, you bring your squad, you bring all your people, and we'll play some 2-on-2, and we'll see what's up.
Okay, no, I guarantee we'll do that. We'll bring that back. I know, because I know people want to hear the conversation, right? And
I know they do.
And I know they want to hear the conversation. Okay, so before we go, last question I ask everyone: if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I think that's an easy question. If you ask anybody that know me, they would say Shelton's brand is he's a mentor, he's a coach. I've had people reach out to me, strangers on LinkedIn. Can you help me this? So I'm that person who understands that I'm here. I'm a product of grace and mercy. And I really should say mercy and grace. I was able to survive the streets. It came late. Later in life, it dawned on me, all the gifts, everything that's been given to you wasn't for you. Some of this stuff is for other people. Once I figured that out and I started really being intentional about helping people, and it can't help everybody. You certainly can't help them and give them everything, but certainly you can do something. That's my brand, is superpower. It's helping people. I mentioned Dawn Wade earlier, being an instructor in the classroom and then her remembering, wow, there was something you said, and I'm going to reach back out to you so you can partner with us to help this company. And I've got so many former students and people will just tell you that's his brand. He's probably generous to a fault with his time and energy, just trying to help, we have this saying in the Black community, each one reach one, each one teach one. We got, come on, man. That's how we grew up. So I just try to make mine real, because I know I did not get here but for the grace and mercy of God. So, when my time is up and he's saying, okay, let me look at your book. You're like, oh yeah, you good. Yeah, your credit's good. Come on, come on. Hey, I'm gonna need some of that grace, considering some of the things I messed up on.
Right, I say all the time, when I get to heaven, if I get to heaven, all I want to say is I love. Like, hope is that enough? Like, I love. So thank you for your time, Mr.
Thank you, man, for the opportunity.
We appreciate you so much and all the wisdom that you gave us today and all the gems. We'll see you next week at our Leadership Summit, April 14th and 15th. You want more wisdom? Come check this out.
Y'all check that out. Yeah.
We have a lot of powerful men like him on there. We thank you for that. And hopefully you go check him out, his books, his website. Like, he is a man of knowledge and wisdom, as you heard. If you want more content, make sure you go to our podcast page, go to our YouTube page. Thank you again. Thank you for Shelton Goode. We thank you, brother. And we will see you next time on Real Talk.